Hello and welcome to the Talkin' Ball podcast, a podcast where Jack and I talk ball. We're back here today. I'm Keaton. This is Jack. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm good. It's been a while. Two Thunder games have passed since our last pod, and we got another one tonight. So glad we're in the midst of the season again. So that's always fun.
Yeah, the Thunder are 3-0 for the first time since 2016, off to a good start. Got two big wins over the weekend. First, we're gonna recap the Bulls game, then we're gonna move to the Hawks game, and we're gonna finish the podcast with a Spurs preview. This should be a pretty quick pod. But first, let's hop into that Bulls game. Jack, do you have any opening comments about the Bulls game?
Yeah. This was kind of all three of our games so far have been a little similar, where our offense hasn't really gotten it going to its full extent of what we know they're capable of. But then our defense has just kind of willed us to stay in the game the entire time. And then when our offense kind of picks up a little bit, that's when we build a whole big lead. So this Bulls game, another great rebounding performance from Chet. He had 16 boards that game, his career high. And I think that these signs of improved rebounding has just been mostly due to the fact that he became a much better athlete in the off season. So, and just with experience. But just as he became quicker and stronger, that's been very helpful to our team. Other things from that Bulls game, I thought J-Dub had a bit of a bounce back game. He had a better game than he did in the opener. And everyone, like, none of our main guys had to play a whole ton, which was probably good because they had a game the next day as well. But it's always nice when we build a lead like that so we can kind of play the other guys.
Yeah, I thought this game was very interesting. Kind of going along with a theme from the beginning of the season is shooting struggles matched by big wins. So that was kind of interesting because this game wasn't great behind the arc, especially. Thunder shot 20%, which is probably about half of what we would want. From a game, aim around 40% and we'd be happy, but they still managed to win this game in dominating fashion. And so overall, that's a very weird combo. You don't typically see teams shooting 20% from three, winning the game by 20, by 19 there. But um, yeah, so Jack and I, we were able to watch this game from an Oklahoma City uh, location, a little bar area for the uncontested watch party. Shout out uncontested podcast. We had a, great time, uh, hanging out and watching the game there. Something I thought from this game was I just thought Chet was dominant, like you mentioned, 16 rebounds. He's continued to show throughout these first three games this season that he is improving his game in a lot of different areas, not just how he scores the ball, but where he's positioning himself, how he's battling for these rebounds. He just seems much more confident on the glass. So yeah, let's dive into some of the players here. So who are some players that you want to talk about to start for this Bulls game?
Um, I mean, I mentioned Chet had another great game, 21 points, 16 rebounds, two blocks. J-Dub, I mentioned also having a better game than the opener with 24, 8, and 9. Shea had another great game. Um, he struggled shooting from the field a little bit. 2 for 9 from three, 9 for 21 from the field, but he had 8 rebounds, which is great, and 4 steals. He was really active on defense, as he has been all season so far. I mean, Kaysen has been great on defense in all 3 games. He had 3 steals that game and 6 rebounds, and that was the game he started. So, and then our bench performed well as well. I mean, Wiggins was a plus 17 that game. Um, just continued active hands from guys like Caruso and obviously Dort had a plus 16. I mean Shea was a plus 23, Kaysen plus 15. So um a lot of guys just kind of did what they needed to do, but um, the only thing was the shooting struggles from most of our guys. But I think we'll turn those things around. If I Do you want to do player of the game yet or not?
Let's wait a second for player of the games. 'Cause before that, I just want to mention that we had talked on Friday about, maybe these games over the weekend would be a time for the Thunder to experiment with a few things from like not just the starting lineup, but for rotations and everything. And I think that we kind of hit the nail on the head with the starting lineups and everything. Like I think this weekend was definitely a time for Mark to test things out, especially while we're still missing J. Will and Kenrich, like in Hartenstein, obviously. But um, we've seen three games and three different starting lineups, and so um, maybe we'll land on one. Like I'm curious tonight against the Spurs, do we see a fourth starting lineup, or do we, maybe continue with one of the ones we've seen before?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Caruso gets a start at some point. But also I can see the thinking behind just wanting a guy like that off your bench. But I don't know if I could see us continuing to rotate to kind of be unpredictable. Um, but I can also see us maybe this is just an experimental time where eventually we're gonna settle down on one lineup we like the best to start out. Um, but I mean, when it comes down to it, like all four of those guys, Wiggins, Kaysen, Joe, Caruso, whether they start or not, they're probably going to play similar roles in a similar amount of minutes. Um, but it will be interesting to see um, what we do the rest of the season in terms of if we rotate or stick to one lineup or who it is or whatever. So
Yeah, and like no matter if these guys start or not, we've seen so far these first three games that they've been impactful no matter where they come in off the rotation. So that's just the one really big positive about this lineup is you've got a lot of dogs that no matter how like what situations they're put in, they're gonna make the most out of it. So that's what I like so far. Last thing I want to say about the Bulls game, we talked about the shooting struggles, we talked about the big winning margin, but the way that like they were able to win that was forcing turnovers. The turnover difference was 10 turnovers from the Thunder's, 26 from the Bulls.
yeah,
That's huge, and that's how they were able to win this game. You don't win the game with an even turnover margin shooting the way that the Thunder shot. Like forcing turnovers were big, but like you don't even see this on the box score, but how many like difficult shots that we're forcing teams into right now. Like that's another big thing. The Thunder defense is suffocating and it's going to be suffocating all year long. And so that's just one thing that I think it really has Thunder fans fired up over these first few games. So
yeah.
um
We lead the league in opponent turnovers per game right now at 20.7, which is really a ridiculous number. I mean, the Warriors are right there with 20.5. The Warriors have had an impressive defense so far, surprisingly. But um, yeah, that's a crazy high number. Obviously, it probably won't be that high all season, but um, making professional basketball teams turn the ball over almost 21 times is like crazy. So, um, yeah, any other thoughts on the Bulls game?
no, I'm ready to move into our player of the games for the Bulls game if you'd like.
Yeah, I will give this one to Chet. Just I know I probably gave it to him for the opener, but those first two games from him were really impressive and setting the career high and in rebounding. I mean, that's kind of what we need right now when we're missing front court depth. So he was huge for us that game.
Yeah, it's like he's been very impressive so far, and so it's like I don't want to keep giving the Riverwind player of the game to the same player all season, but I think Chet definitely deserves our player of the game for the first two games of the season at least. So I'm also going to go with Chet, and we both did go with Chet for the season opener too, but I think it's well deserved.
All right. Moving into the Hawks game, the Thunder beat the Hawks on Sunday, home opener. They were on a back-to-back, um, and they were really sounds like it was even a tougher situation than a normal back-to-back because they were flying back from Chicago and didn't get to leave till 4 in the morning or something like that, and then they had a 6 p.m. game in OKC. But that probably had something to do with why they couldn't get the offense going for really the first over 3+ quarters. It was pretty neck and neck for that most of the game. But then they wound up winning 128 to 104, um, which putting up 128 points when your offense struggled a lot of the game is pretty impressive. Also, winning by 24 when it was that tight most of the game is very impressive. So I think I didn't get to watch most of this game, but that's the thing about this team. Their defense will just if their offense is struggling, their defense is so good that it can just keep them in the game. And then if their offense kind of figures things out and they start to see more shots fall, then that's when they can build a huge lead like that. So I think like to have a team that's struggled on offense like this and still be 3-0 with an average margin of victory, probably over 20 points, I would guess. I could look it up, but um, their point differential, I can look right now actually. But having, let's see, plus 19.3 per game. So they've won 3 games by an average of over 19. That's just crazy impressive because if we look by the numbers here, the Thunder's offensive rating is 18th in the league, out at a 109.2. But their defensive rating is first in the league by far at a 90.8. Next closest is 99.3. That's the Warriors. So despite being 18th in offense, they're second in net rating just by how far ahead in defense they are compared to everyone else. Um, so that's been the reason that they've been able to win these games by such a large margin, despite not playing to how like the strength that we know they can be on offense. And the thing is, they'll figure out the offense. So it's like, how much are they going to win by when those shots are falling? And they do have things figured out, and they do have Hartenstein, Jalen Williams, and Kenrich Williams back. So beating the not as good teams by so much when our hasn't looked great and we're not at full strength is really encouraging because um, if we're blowing them out in these circumstances like this, then it's got to make you feel good that um, we'll be able to compete with better teams when we have our guys and when we're playing better offensively. So this game specifically, Shea had a great game. I think this was one of his better games. Mostly, I mean, for sure stat wise, but um, even just like by the eye test, he just kind of took over that game and he was really leading the charge there. He had 23 points, 8 rebounds. Oh wait, I'm looking at the Bulls, sorry. He had 35 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. So that's just a crazy stat line there. He did great. I mean, Chet had another great game with 25 points, 9 rebounds, 6 blocks. So to have games like that out of your top two guys is always good. What are your thoughts on this Hawks game?
Yeah, like you said, when your MVP candidate is hustling on the defensive end too and giving you 6 stocks in a game as well as being 1 assist short from a triple double, um, I mean that's how you know that we are so fortunate as Thunder fans to be on his side of the court. So uh,
Right.
this game was a fist fight for most of the game. For 3 quarters, basically, this was neck and neck. The Hawks even really kind of controlled most of the first half. But a common theme, like we've talked about time and time again, the name of the game is defense, and the Thunder were able to force 19 turnovers and only turn the ball over 10 times. So, like again, we talked about the Bulls game, how the Bulls almost tripled our turnovers. Well, here the Hawks doubled our turnovers. So when you're able to turn the ball over double-digit times and still have half of the turnovers of your opponent, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. And the Thunder really, separated themselves from the Hawks in the fourth quarter, outscoring them 39-18. That is a huge margin. And when you have your highest scoring quarter in the fourth, you'll take that. Like you never want to finish the game with your lowest scoring quarter like we did against the Nuggets. You want to put your foot on the gas and really create a gap there. So that's what I was really satisfied with the Thunder on Sunday night. Um yeah, another note is uh Alex Caruso is making such a huge difference on the game, and he's not really even shooting that well. So, shots are going to start falling, and when they do, it's going to be scary how just effective of a player he is. He's already so effective as he is, and he really has not been great on the offensive side of the ball, shooting at least. He has been a good passer, continue to move the rock and everything like that, but. Um, Another note from this game is the Thunder actually did shoot better from three. This is a game that they shot 16 of 40, so that's 40% from three, best of the season. Where they really struggled, especially in the first half, was around the rim. They really struggled to finish in contested layup situations and everything. But I thought J-Dub was a player that especially struggled in the first half, hitting his shots. But that's kind of been a theme the first three games is he's maybe struggled a little bit more on the offensive end, yet he still finds a way to put up 20 points. So you'll take that from maybe a player that's not hitting all of the shots that he's used to, or maybe struggling a little bit more. When he's still finding a way to eclipse 20 points and be very effective on the court. He was a plus 14. You'll definitely take that. Like, uh, so far, a note of this season is the Thunder have a definite big three. They've really J-Dub, Chet, Shea. They've really performed uh, very good together and have led the team in scoring the three of them. So that's what even with shooting struggles, they've been very good together. Other players that impacted the game, I thought was Dort had im It was extremely impressive from Dort. His shooting, sometimes he can be a player that he takes maybe a questionable shot, especially years ago. He takes a shot and you go, "Oh gosh, that was maybe not the shot that we should have settled for on that possession." But he has gotten so much smarter on that end of the court. But shooting the ball 7 times, making it 5 times, scoring 16 points, hitting 4 3-pointers. If you can get those kind of games out of Lou Dort, your defensive specialist,
Yeah.
then the league's in for a world of hurting.
You
What other thoughts do you have about that?
know, about Dort or
Anything.
yeah, I mean Dort was awesome. It's huge when we can get that kind of offensive production from him also, because you know you're going to get the defensive production. Another guy from this game was Kaysen. He had Trey Young in clamps, especially towards the end of that game. I got to the point where I was just feeling bad for Trey Young. Because I've always been a Trey guy. I was like, dang, poor Trey. He can't do anything out there. I mean, Kaysen had 3 steals, but even more than that, like even on the possessions, he wasn't getting steals. Trey couldn't do anything with him on him. And it looked like it was kind of a situation where Kaysen was doing well on him, and maybe it wasn't the original plan to just ride it out with Kaysen for that long, but he was doing so well that we just had to keep him out there and leave him on him for most of the second half. And so that was really impressive to have. I mean, it's great to have a young guy that's already that disciplined on the defensive end and being that impactful. Um, Another thing, I think it's really huge when, especially when we're lacking front court depth, when guys like Shea and J-Dub can get 11 and 9 rebounds, respectively. I mean, someone's got to get them right now, so it's great to have those guys stepping up to grab boards. So yeah, overall, a really impressive game. I mean, that's kind of what separates the good teams from the great teams. The great teams can kind of good teams can hang in a game like the Hawks did. The great teams can kind of pull away and get it out of hand real quick like the Thunder did. So I love what I saw from the Thunder in that game. We had another starting lineup change. The Wiggins started this game. He did all right. I mean, he only played 18 minutes, but he had 9 points, shot 3 of 4, but he was a -5, mostly just because he wasn't out there during the time we went on our huge run in the fourth. Because we opted for guys like Kaysen and Caruso to lead the defensive push there. So um, yeah, uh, great to be 3-0. Do you have any thoughts before we do our player of the games here?
Yeah, I have three main thoughts. Uh, First, the Wiggins starting lineup, I think, was one of my probably my favorite that we've deployed so far. You can't really go wrong with any of the lineups that we've done. However, I thought the Wiggins lineup provided a um a unique combination of size. Like he's because we've started Kaysen and we've started Joe. Wiggins is the biggest out of those players, so I felt like that was a little bit better on maybe on like the rebounding aspect or boxing out. Like he only had one rebound. I guess it was an offensive rebound. So I guess the box score might not agree with me. But I just felt like having a bigger player out there was better. But I also felt like the best part of that starting lineup was Wiggins' ability to create his own shot. You can always kick the ball to Wiggins and trust that he's going to do something smart with the ball. And so I really thought that he chose his shots carefully and efficiently. So I thought that that lineup was effective and was able to go punch for punch with the Hawks. Second
Yeah,
thought.
we have some live news here. Jalen Williams, Jay Will, irritated his right hamstring strain during a workout yesterday and will be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks. Um, so that's a bummer.
Oh,
We thought maybe we were getting close to Jay Will coming back to get some front court help, but sounds like maybe Hartenstein will be back before Jay will now. So I mean, obviously that's sad for J-Will. I know he wants to be out on the court, but it's also tough for our team. Just we need big bodies right now. Um, but maybe Kenrich will be back soon. I saw today he went down to the Blue to maybe get some live practice reps with them. So that's always a sign that they're nearing a return. So that'd be helpful if Kenrich is back soon. But we were hoping J-Will would be too, but hope that there's not any more complications there and he can have a smooth recovery and be back as quick as he can.
yeah, definitely not what we wanted to hear. That's horrible news. Feels like when he hurt his hamstring and uh, right now, I feel like we've gotten those news both live on the pod.
Yeah.
So maybe we
We're
need to
not-
stop podcasting. Uh, I guess I'll touch on that for a second. I agree with everything you said. Another thing to note, though, is Usman Jang has been kind of stepping in as the backup center role right now, and he has been incredibly better than we may have anticipated going into the season at that role. I feel like he has been effective, and I look back to lineups where we didn't have a backup point guard for Russell, like the Samaje year where we had Samaj Christian for Kristen when he would come in and if the whole world would fall down. All the leads that Russell Westbrook would build up would crumble to the ground and Russell Westbrook would come back in and now all of a sudden we're down 20. Um, we have an opportunity to do that again. When Chet goes out, the whole world could crumble. But I feel like uh Usman Jang has actually been able to hold the fort down. And exactly what I'm talking about is he played 8 minutes against the Hawks at that backup center role and had a plus minus of 0. If he can come in and the lead is exactly what it was, or the score is exactly what it was when Chet comes back in. That could be considered a win right now when you're thin at this center spot. So I think that's a win. Okay, so my second thought is very brief, but it's that Zachary Richichet impressed me. I thought he was very good. In his 27 minutes, he shot 50%, and I thought he was very effective around the rim. He had 6 rebounds, a steal, a block, 2 assists to add to that. His plus minus wasn't very good, but every single person on the Hawks was in the negative plus minus. So, uh, but that's all I'll say about that. I thought he was pretty good. Um, my last thought. I got on Twitter in the middle of the Hawks game and was pretty disgusted because I saw a ton of discourse around J-Dub in a way that was negative, very similar to the people that were just like harassing Giddy online about oh he sucks, oh we need to trade him, oh he's terrible. I saw a ton of that about J-Dub. And first of all, J-Dub's one of my favorite players, and I think he's one of the more likable guys on the team. Like everybody's so likable on the team, and he's a great basketball player. And so, yeah, while he might be struggling right now, I think it's pretty disgusting as a fan base to just pile on anybody that struggles. And so if if I see that on Twitter, like I'm just automatically unfollowing these people because I don't need that negativity around this team. Like I think this team doesn't deserve to have its fan base like cannibalize. Like we should be if a player is struggling or having, maybe off nights or something, we should be there to lift them up, encourage them. Like if you are posting stuff online about this player, you should maybe be like, "Oh, yeah, maybe he didn't have a bad or he didn't have a great game tonight, but hopefully he can get back on track soon." I think that it is pathetic to hop on top of these players that are doing so much for our city right now and our team, like hop on top of them and be like, oh, like I saw, oh, we need to just trade him. Oh, he'd be great on the Wizards. And like, while these might be jokes, I think when we saw with Giddy, like he was open and honest about when he would get online, he would see a ton of negative stuff and it impacted him mentally. So I don't think that we should be a fan base that is going to berate these players if they have an off night. We should be there to lift them up and support them. And I think the real Thunder fans are. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. One more thought I have about the game is Chet's 6 blocks were awesome, and there was specifically one stretch in the fourth quarter when we were kind of going on a run where it was like he had 3 straight blocks on 3 straight possessions. I was like, poor Hawks, man. That was that was just impressive the way he was able to guard the rim like that. One more thing, I guess. I've been impressed with Shea's leadership on and off the court this year. Seems like he's like taken a new step at just assuming that role as the leader of this team and just matured into that. And that's been really awesome to see. I mean, specifically with this game, it was really cool to see him go make sure that Alex Reese got the game ball after he had his first career points. Um, and how many superstar players are doing that to make sure that this rookie that only made the team because of our lack of front court depth, it is like ensuring he gets the game ball for that special moment. Like so many superstars could just be like, "Oh, I don't care. Like I don't even know who this guy is. Like it doesn't matter." But Shea made a point to go do that. Same kind of attitude with the TNT interview after the Denver game when Jared Greenberg was like, "I'm here with Shea, Chet, and J Dub," and then Shea was like, "And Adam Flagler, and Isaiah Joe, and Usman Jang," and like he made sure it's not all about the big players. It's a team, and every guy that's there is important, and Shea isn't any more important than anyone else in his mind. So that's a real humble leader attitude, and that's the kind of guy you want leading the team. Not to mention what he's doing on the court, which is why he gets my player of the game for the Hawks game. I mean, it's hard to go pick against Chet with 6 blocks, but this was just a signature Shea game. Kind of filled up the stat sheet all across the board. He had 35, 11, and 9 plus 3 steals and 3 blocks. Like that's crazy. Fun fact, Chet is first in the NBA with 6 stocks per game. Shea is second with 5, which are both insane. But to have your big man and your point guard to be top two, like that's crazy. So who is your player of the game?
Yeah, I'm going with Shea as well. I think looking at the stat sheet, I think this is probably one of his most impressive games of his career, and he's had a ton of them. But when you look 1 assist off of a triple double as well as 6 stocks, that's what you want from your leader. Plus 24. Can't go wrong with Shea this game. Chet had a wonderful game as well.
One other thing I'll say about Shea. Yesterday they announced that Shea will be starring in the new season of Starting Five, the Netflix show. I really enjoyed Starting Five season one that came out a few weeks ago, where they followed Jimmy Butler, Tatum, LeBron, Sabonis, and Anthony Edwards around last season. It was cool to just get a glimpse into people's lives off the court and kind of seeing how they approach the game and stuff. But I'm really excited to see that side of Shea throughout this coming season. Just seeing more about his life and just how he conducts his business related to basketball and not related to basketball, and maybe some interactions with him with his wife and kid and stuff. So, along with Harden, KD, Halliburton, and Jaylen Brown. So that'll be cool to see. I mean, not to mention it's always fun to see Thunder guys getting some national love. It's kind of like it's cool that Netflix and ESPN, or is it run by ESPN? I don't know, but um, it's
Sure
cool.
about that.
It's cool to see that they are wanting to choose Shea as a guy they want to highlight on the show.
Yeah, I think that that's very exciting as well, and I will be tuned in. I don't know if they've announced when that's going to release yet, though.
I'm sure
But
it'll be similar as this year, maybe September of next year or something like that, to
yeah,
give them the summer to edit after the playoffs and stuff. But I mean, that'd be even more exciting if the Thunder win the championship this year, just to see the all the behind the scenes of Shea throughout the season and throughout the playoffs and finals and stuff, if that happens. But um,
yeah.
one more thing, um, let me read you the top 15 players in the league in defensive rating. Okay. Number one is Cason Wallace.
Wow.
All right, you keep track of how many Thunder players I say in the top 15, okay?
Okay.
Number two, Jaren Jackson Jr. Number three, Nick Batum. Number four, Alex Caruso. Number five, Kevon Looney. Number six, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. So that we're at 3 out of 6. All right, seven, Royce O'Neal. Eight, D'Anthony Melton. Nine, Chris Dunn. 10, Chet Holmgren. 4 out of 10. 11, Buddy Hield. 12, Donovan Mitchell. 13, Lou Dort. 14, Aaron Wiggins. 15, Duncan Robinson. So 6 out of the top 15 players in the NBA in defensive rating are Thunder players. Now, that probably won't last the whole season, but that's still crazy for that to be true at any point in the season for 6 out of the top 15 defensive rating guys to all be on one team. Now, if you look at the opposite, Alex Caruso is the top Thunder player in offensive rating at 148th in the league. So I'm sure things will kind of even out a little bit, but that kind of just shows you how impressive the defense is and how behind the offense is right now. But I mean, that just shows the defense is kind of the reason we're able to win these games, and that defense leads to offense. Like we put up 128 points the other day because of forcing turnovers, getting out in transition, um, a lot due to steals and blocks and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. Um, so the Thunder play tonight at 8:30 on ESPN, home against the San Antonio Spurs. So I know the national media always likes to market Chet versus Wimby, so that'll be fun. I mean, like him or not, Wemby's a fun player to watch. So I'm excited to see us go against him. Um, but overall, this should be another game where we just take care of business. The Spurs aren't very good, in my opinion. Haven't been super impressed with what I've seen from them so far this year. Um, they look okay, but I think they're a very beatable team when they're playing against a team like the Thunder. And so I'm excited to see how we do against Wimby, and excited to see Chris Paul play. See if he. I know it's always exciting for the guys like Shea that and Lou that kind of look up to him as a mentor after that 2020 season. Um, but what are your thoughts going into the Spurs game?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's another winnable game for the Thunder. Um, I think every single game is probably a winnable game for the Thunder this season. But I think it's a game that the Thunder should win. The Spurs have played pretty close games so far. They did beat the Rockets once. They're 1-2. They lost to the Rockets again last night, but um, their rotation doesn't mesmerize me. Jeremy Sohan's been good so far. Wembanyama's obviously Wembanyama, but I don't know. I think Wembanyama settles for some shots that are pretty low percentage shots. So I think if we can force him into some of those low percentage shots and rebound the ball tonight, I think that that's going to be the key to the game. Um, the Spurs turned it over 17 times against the Rockets, and so um, the Rockets' defense is not as good as the Thunder. So maybe the Thunder can force the Spurs to over 20 turnovers, and that can be another way that they could win the game by 20 points. Now, these Spurs are probably better than the Spurs that we saw last year. And the Spurs that we saw last year did happen to beat us once. So there's nothing written in stone that the Thunder are going to win this game, but as long as they stick to what they're good at, playing solid defense and moving the ball on offense, finding the open man, Shea getting to his spots, uh, maybe we can see JW a little bit more efficient, and Chet dominate on both sides. Like we should be good.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see who we roll out there in the starting lineup. Maybe we start Caruso, and I think if we start Caruso, I think we're probably going to fall in love with that starting lineup. So that's my initial thoughts.
yeah. I'm excited for the game. I'll be there. So my first regular season game I'll be at this year. So I'm excited for that, even though it's a late one. I think we'll have some later games this year just because we'll be on national TV more, and they kind of have the six o'clock slot and the 8:30 slot, or the 6:30 and the 9. And we're usually going to be at 8:30 or the 9 just because they usually have an East Coast team as a 6 or 6:30. So that's one weird fact about being in the Western Conference, in even though we're in the Central Time Zone. But um, one thing I was looking at is like the schedule. We kind of have a light start of the schedule, which might be good because of our front court, um, like lack of depth, and injuries and stuff. So it might be nice to kind of get more easy games out of the way right now while we're maybe figuring things out on offense and waiting for some guys to recover and come back from their injuries. I actually was looking, um, I separated like our schedule into like hard games, medium games, easy games. There's 26 easy games on our schedule the whole year. So that's 32% of our games are easy. So that's games against the Bulls, Hawks, Wizards, Hornets, Nets, Raptors, Pistons, Spurs, Blazers, and Jazz. Um, but four out of our first five games are easy games, games we should win. So 32% of our whole season should be easy, but 80% of our first five games should be easy. So, and then you can make an argument for the Clippers on Saturday maybe being down there too. But um, yeah, because we had the Bulls, Hawks, now the Spurs and Blazers. So just thought that was interesting. Might be good to start a little lighter while we're figuring things out. and then maybe we can play some of the tougher games at more full strength than once we've got more of the flow of our offense down. So that might be a little advantage when it comes to winning regular season games.
Yeah, and also, so I really like that categorizing the season. And the one team that's not considered easy on that in the first 5 games is a team that we beat on opening night by 15 points. So,
More and more, they're looking easier for teams to play. So,
right. And maybe it could prove that the Thunder are making good teams look easy to beat. You never know this early into the season. The Nuggets haven't looked great, but um, the Thunder's defense is that good. The Thunder's defense is that good. So, we've got a big a big game tonight. Can we take advantage of this easy start to the schedule? In professional basketball, any team can win, and these games that we're categorizing as easy, like you said, the Thunder should win. But I will remind you that last season the Thunder, the best team in the West, dropped a game to the worst team in the East, the Pistons. So it's like the Thunder need to attack every game with that same mentality, that same focus that they have. That 0-0 mentality that they always say, and truly take advantage to the start. Can we beat the Spurs tonight? Can we beat the Trailblazers on Friday? Can we beat the Clippers on Saturday? That would be 6-0 if we can take care of business. Like that's insane to think about. The Thunder, like we said, that this is the first 3-0 start since 2016. That 2016 team started 4-0, I believe it was. Um, and that's as far as they got. And then they ended up, going on a little bit of sputtering a little bit. That 2016 Russell Westbrook MVP team ended up being, the middle of the playoff teams in the Western Conference in that 4-5 matchup, I believe. Um, or was it the 6th seed? Was it the 6th seed? I can't remember.
mm,
I
his
guess
MVP year,
yeah,
16.
6th seed. Yeah, so they ended up being a 6th seed in the Western Conference and having that good of a start. So it'll be interesting to see, can this Thunder team start with momentum and keep that momentum going. So that's what I'm interested to see, if the Thunder can establish that momentum and keep that rolling tonight.
Yeah. So I'm excited for tonight's game. Hopefully we get another dub.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. How do the Thunder defend Wembanyama, and are they able to not turn the ball over against this Thunder team? That's the key to the Spurs winning, I think, is having Wembanyama be effective, rebounding differential, turnover differential. If they can keep that tight, then the game could be tight. Um, but yeah, do you have any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Thunder up. Let's
Thunder up. All right, we will see you guys in the next one. See ya.
boom.